Hey, this is Jishnu again from Geek Fruit. I'm here with Kailash Iyer of Pulpocracy. That's a fun name. You have a couple of books that are quite a wide variety.
So I'll just let you know about what I really launched with.
Yeah.
A couple of years back when the Comic-Con scene was just kind of taking off, I realized that while people are doing a couple of comics and stuff, there are no publications out there which actually talk about comics. You know, so if you ever want to go online, you want to find out about the latest Marvel comic creator or the latest DC comic, you'll find a lot of websites and blogs which have interviews and articles with those, but there's nothing on the Indian scene.
Right.
So I decided to launch this comic called the Pulp Quarterly. So this is actually a magazine which has got interviews with some of the local Indian comic book artists and writers. It's got reviews of Indian comic book releases. It's even got a couple of critical essays on the state of comics in India. And along with that, I even got a couple of artists on board and gave them like a free run. Like, hey guys, here are 20 pages. Go ahead and give me whatever kind of comics you all want. So the kind of entries I got in here were really varied and really interesting, and it's the kind of stuff which most people don't see out there. I mean, everybody knows a Grant Morrison, everybody knows like a Warren Ellis, but you have all these awesome comics coming out, and most people just look at the cover and they say, hey, cool comic, let me buy it. But you don't know who the creator behind it is. So I think it's very important for the person to not just read the comics, but also kind of know who is responsible for it.
Absolutely.
That's kind of how you end up building homegrown superstars.
That's great. So tell me about the other ones that you have. So you have a couple of anthologies.
So I am a fan of standalone comics, and because we have such a lot variety of artists and writers in the country, I decided to not restrict myself to say one story which would kind of depend on one artist, but bring out like an anthology where a lot of different artists and writers would get an opportunity to kind of, you know, present their work to the audience. So Do Not Open the Comic, this is the comic, was a horror themed anthology.
Nice.
And it's a very ironic name, and in fact it causes a lot of people to kind of stop and do a double check. Hey, do not open this comic, should I open it or not? So that's the whole hook. The real USP here is every single one of these comics has got a very strong Indian connect to it. For instance, there's a story about a psychotic rickshaw driver. There's a story about that's set in the fire factories of Shivami. So, you know, so these kind of things are not something that you see in a lot of other comics out there. So once I got done with this anthology, I decided to go in the science fiction zone. So my second comic is Antariksh Tales, which is adventures in outer space. So these are stories about
Rickshawala in outer space. Please tell me there's a Rickshawala in outer space. Flying rickshaw, please.
Shootout at CST, which is shootout at the Chhatrapati Space Terminal. Okay. You know, in 2077, for all you know, the CST is out there in space. Then you have like an intergalactic food delivery guy who has to travel from planet to planet, delivering like dosas and idlis and stuff. So it's science fiction, but with a very quirky Indian touch to it.
How long has this industry been around long enough to call itself an industry?
I don't know whether we can still call it an industry, because you will find very few people who are actually doing this full time.
Right.
Pretty much everybody who is in the scene has a day job to support themselves, or are commercial illustrators who are doing comics on the side because they have an interest for comics.
Are you doing it full time?
I actually have a day job at an ad agency, and the reason why I have a day job at an ad agency is so I can earn money there, which I can kind of just pump into my side passion.
No shame in it. Where can it go? What do you think we could do to help make it grow?
What is important right now is for comic book artists and creators themselves to be at it a little more. I mean, I would give myself as an example. I myself am not very regular at the Comic Cons.
Sure.
So I think if a lot of us start showing up regularly, it will help. And I think you can already see signs of improvements, because in the first couple of years when you had the Comic Con, your comic book stalls and your artist stalls would be spread all over the floor.
Right.
So it would normally be difficult for people to find them. But right now, as you can see, we have this entire long Indian comic art and village thingy. Where, so if anybody who comes out here and says that, hey, I want to find out what the Indian comic book scene is like, they just need to walk along this alley. So I think there are definitely improvements that are happening every year.
So guys, this is Kailash Iyer from Pulpocracy. I love saying that word. The Pulpocracy. Anyway, thank you so much, man.